Hello and welcome again to LB Presents Unite on Purpose. And yes, we are here again with another interview with an exciting founder of this day, a technology business. And so we are uniting people on purpose to be able to create a purpose-driven movement all around how we unite for change. What if we could shift education, health, manufacturing, retail, finance to be able to create the face of modern business and the face of the modern world? And so we are inviting today Wilma from QT-tronics. And Wilma has been on my Bob school and she came on about a year ago. And Wilma is absolutely known in the world of beauty, apparel and technology. And she is at purpose-led board level. And her business is a multi-award winning technology business. And it now strategically white labels and patented devices for digital services in the premium skincare range. Now, when Wilma came into my business school, I was blown away by her knowledge in this space, number one. But also, what a ball of energy she is. And I had the pleasure of teaching her at the stock exchange on the elite program where I am a teacher. And then you came into my business school. So can I first say thank you, Wilma, for coming on to my program today?
My pleasure, Lindsay.
Welcome to LB Presents. So I'm going to kick off and I'm going to say, can you tell the viewers who you are, a bit more about your background and how on earth you got into this business in the first place?
Yes, certainly, Lindsay. Thank you for having me today. QT-tronics has been a fascinating journey for me because my passion for personal care began a very long time ago, and I spent so much of my life in that space. And then 5 years ago, I set up my own consultancy to see if all of my experience could add value to one or two companies in my home here in Scotland. And within the first few months of setting up that consultancy, I met Dr. David Heath, who is the founder of QT-tronics. And David's background was in medical devices, and he actually had attended a skincare conference and presented some of his work, and really saw that opportunity to take some of the best practice that had started to come to fruition within the medical device space and apply it into the personal care space. And it was really David's light bulb moment, because he'd been looking for that business opportunity, but he really didn't know anything about personal care. So within the sort of first year of extending the business out of the university where he was based, he was invited along to a school that I was delivering on internationalization. And to use his words, he looked me up on LinkedIn and thought, this is the person that we've been looking for the past year, who really understood the personal care industry. And this was 5 years ago. And we started to talk about what could this look like? How could we extend expertise? How could we extend experience that happens so well in the physical into what happens when the consumer goes home? How could we educate and guide the consumer how to take care of themselves in a truly personalized, adaptive way? And it has been the most fascinating journey, you know, literally from startup. So David spun the company out of the university. We won in a competition called the Scottish Edge, which you may or may not have heard of. Scottish Edge is really, yes. Yeah, okay. So it's kind of like Dragon's Den for Scottish companies, and we pitched on the stage there our idea, and we won. And that enabled me 4 years ago, just now, to take the first early stage prototypes into some of my contacts in New York City and really sit in front of super premium brands, because our strategy is to white label our tech for brands who have great formulations and want to support their consumers to get results from those formulations. So I got to go to New York with those early stage prototypes and really take the ideas, understand where the brands were at. You know, as an industry in personal care, we've always been so hungry to understand the consumer. but we've never really understood what happens when the consumer goes home. So actually it was on that trip, working with some of my ex-colleagues and now friends, that we came up with this line that the beauty press love to refer to Cutitronics as, which is the FitBit for skincare. And there's a lot of parallels there, because we're educating and we're guiding and we're changing behaviors so that our skin being in great health for a lifetime is just one less thing we need to think about.
Okay, now I've got hundreds of questions, Wilma, that I want to ask you from a personal perspective of being a woman, aging, and obviously, and you know, personal care is a huge consideration as a woman and as a man. Actually, this is not just exclusive to men, just to women anymore. Men hugely take care of themselves. And then obviously my business brain kicks in and wants to ask you 100 questions all about, wow, from white labeling the platform to going out and working with big brands. So I'm first off going to do the personal side, Wilma, because, you know, that's me.
Please do.
So personal care is the thing on everybody's mind. Aging is the thing on everybody's mind. And what you've, I believe, done is be able to fuse that technology mindset of David and your mindset of personal care and really look at how you go out to market for the consumer. So could you talk to me first about, you know, I come from a trends background. So where is this going and why your uniqueness, and what does that mean for the consumer in general?
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, I've been working with David really over the last 3 or 4 years, exactly as you described, taking all my experiences in personal care and really what we were doing pre-digital and the physical to educate and guide the consumer. And how do we transfer that omni-channel so that the whole experience is seamless for the consumer?
Yeah.
Now, what our research tells us is that the principal reason a consumer doesn't repurchase premium skincare is that they don't see the claims that are made through clinical trials. And actually, that shouldn't be a huge surprise to us, because clinical trials are a very controlled environment. Objective measurements of the skin are made. Dispensing is controlled, how much product's being used is controlled, and really importantly, there's a consistency in the volume and applications over lengthy periods of time. Because if we're looking at areas like anti-aging or prevention of skin damage,
Absolutely.
we're looking at what's termed in formulation beauty actives. Now, beauty actives work at a biological level on the skin. So therefore, in order to get optimal results, they need to be used consistently over a period of time to deliver the results. So it's that automation of tracking in a personalized way that our devices and platform enable, so that the topical formulation can really deliver the clinical type results to the consumer at home.
So that means while you're referred to as the Fitbit of the beauty world, or is that because you're able to track your own beauty side, your own personal care side as you're going through the program, and you're able to do that on a technology side? Could you talk to me a bit about that and what that means? Because that's fascinating.
Absolutely. Yeah, we refer to the Fitbit or the Strava for skincare. And really what we've developed are a suite of technologies that include diagnostics. So where we're able to take gold lab standard methodologies and re-engineer those into form factors. I've got a little model here that can be used at home by an untrained consumer. So we're actually able to take those objective measurements so that this becomes a truly personalized experience. So we know what health your personal skin is in that moment, because our skin is such a dynamic living organ that is affected by environment, it's affected by lifestyle, and most consumers don't understand some of that. So we have diagnostics, and then we have connected dispense, so that all of this is connected in the consumer's world via apps. So hence the Strava or the Fitbit, so that every time you measure your skin health, it's tracked. Every time you insert the formulation into your smart skincare sleeve. Your app knows. So if you forget to use the serum that's going to keep your skin in great health for the next 10 years, Lindsay, you'll get a notification to say, you forgot your serum this morning, Lindsay. or the environment changes, the weather changes, or you're traveling and your skin changes. And so that we're tracking and adapting that regime ultimately to deliver the best results for you.
Gosh, I often feel like, as most people that do personal care, your skin, mine particularly, changes exactly like you just said with the seasons. So, summer, obviously much better. As I'm moving into autumn and winter, a lot drier. And I do tend to find I never quite know what I'm doing with my routine or how I'm going about that. And if I could be tracking something like that as I'm going along, I believe that I would be able to be in a much better place with my skin.
Absolutely, Lindsay. What we're effectively doing is using all of the expertise that we have and that the brands we're working with have, and gathering together all of the data of where you are in the world and what condition your skin's in, to unburden you so that you just get what you need to do today. In fact, all you need to do this morning, and then later in the day will guide you with what you need to do tonight. So that your skincare is not just personalized, but it's adapted to the seasons, to the particular stages of your life, because skin will be different at different times in the hormonal cycle. It will be different at different stages in your aging process. What your skin needs can be different. So it's really about taking skincare to the next level, bringing together all the expertise from the formulation as well as the environment and the individual's lifestyle to give them the best results.
So talk to me then about the white labeling of the business model and how that applies with brands, because I'm absolutely fascinated by this, not only from a personal perspective of my own skincare regime, but also actually from a business perspective of, that's just absolute gold. You could be doing that white label and putting that across many different brands. So could you talk to me around that and what that means for the business?
Absolutely. It's about taking the particular brand's passion to take care of their consumers to another level into the home. So as an industry, I've worked with some truly outstanding people and brands in this industry, and we've always been really hungry to understand the consumer so that we can provide that personalized service. So I go back to the 80s and the 90s when we were gathering data in physical stores.
I remember those well.
And we were doing beauty schools in department stores. We were filling in file cards, and we were really trying to teach you as a consumer how to take best care of yourself. And I still love the reactions that we had, remembering the reactions we had from people in that world. Now CRM started to change that, because and the industry still puts huge investment into gathering data to the physical point of sale. So whether that is that you're still in store shopping, or digital obviously started to transform global beauty. So we're buying digitally or physically. We're tracking behavior, and we're now using artificial intelligence to predict what we think people need. But what we've never really been able to do is understand what happens when the consumer goes home. Does she take the product out of her bag that day? Does she use enough product? We have a strategic partnership with a company called Croda International, a FTSE 100, who are really at the cutting edge of ingredient innovation. And through their labs, we ran a trial to understand consumer perception on how much product they should use. And we use different packaging form, we use different consistency of product, we use different price points, thinking, does that affect how much or how little people use? And what we found was there was no correlation. And what we also found, that between the minimum that was expected to be used and the maximum, there was a 10-fold difference. So in other words, the consumer doesn't know what to do when they go home. And you then put that into the mix of how busy our lives are.
Oh,
you know, I don't know about you, Lindsay. In fact, I'll assume that you can't
I'm
remember.
juggling about maybe 300 balls at the same time, as you may know. And my business partner, Darren, tends to pick up about 290 of them.
Yeah, so you think about that. And then I think of some of my colleagues at Croda who are really developing the next generation in beauty actives. But for the consumer to get the optimal results from those beauty actives, they've got to be using them in a way that's going to support those results. So really, we're blending together ingredient innovation, formulation innovation with technology innovation so that the consumer has the best skin possible.
Do you know, you are just a wealth of knowledge and information, and I am absolutely fascinated by the topic. And I could really ask you 100 more questions about this particular area, as I'm sure many men and women are going to do listening to this interview. What I would like to know, Wilma, however, as you know me very well and you have been into Bob's school, is I would like to know for the second half of this interview, what are you known for, Wilma? And how do you leave people feeling? Because you've come into the school and you know that, you know, we always transition people over to being a purpose-led organization. So could you talk to me about that?
Yeah. Personally, I want to be known for empowering people to be the best version of themselves. And of course, that so seamlessly blends with what we are working on at Cutie-tronics, but it's wider than that. You know, when you really push me, when I met you, Lindsay, at the Entrepreneur Day in the Stock Exchange.
I remember.
And you described me as a guru. I was like, me? And you know, I've been around this industry and I'm so passionate about this industry. I love it. I love the effect it has on people. I've seen, you know, really professional people transform because they just understand how to take care of themselves and present themselves better. And you know, and it's just so wonderful to be able to share that with people. But you really made me think about, how do I tell that story? I'm not really a fan of public speaking, and I would, particularly in Cutie-tronics, I would tend to push David to the forefront as the technology guru, but you actually made me think differently. And so shortly after I met you at Entrepreneur Day, I was asked to speak at the Personalised Beauty European Summit a few months later in London.
I remember you sending it.
And your voice was really echoing you. You need to tell your story. So thank you for that. So
You're welcome.
I really stood up on that stage in Gloucester Road and told my story right back to the beginning of what brought me to this industry as a teenager. And I've not really stopped since. So my personal purpose is really about empowering people to be the best version of themselves, so they can use their individual gifts to find their calling and make a difference in their community. And I get to do that through Cutie-tronics, but I also get to do it through some of the voluntary work that I do. I'm a governor in a school. I've recently joined the board of our local governmental business community. And I love to join these parts together.
I remember meeting you in the stock exchange and having a real connection with you on the day. And actually, I do remember your reaction when I said to you, Wilma, you are a guru. And you looked at me with this like shocked face. And I said, oh, you're a guru and you need to lead in the industry. And I've watched you and you've sent me over different things that you've done, from setting up websites to articles that you've written to interviews that you've now done. And it's hugely inspiring for me to watch how you are growing in the industry. And when you talk in the first half of this interview, your wealth of knowledge for the industry and how that translates not only from a technical perspective, which I know you have David around you with also, but also your knowledge of how that then interjects with personal care and also actually the future of the industry is very inspiring for people to actually, from one side, for people to come into the industry and know that that's a fantastic and different industry to come into. And the other side is to actually inspire people to see what's coming next and into the future, which is hugely relevant and actually important for where we're moving to as an industry.
Hugely.
Could I ask you, the pandemic hit and the recession hit, and I know that you are, very successful in your own right, and the business is very successful. And the health industry, the beauty industry, is one of the industries that's been hit the most, along with the tourism side. Could you talk to me about that? Because you are hugely purpose-led as a person, not only as a person, but as an organization. So how have you led that, and what have you done alongside that coming through the pandemic and the recession?
We've accelerated some of what we're doing. I've been talking about omni-channel experience with brands for 3 years. And whilst the pandemic coming, and it obviously changed enormously what we had planned for this year. But what we've really had to do is pivot and really look at flipping some of the situations that we found ourselves in. So I'll give you an example. We've been developing white label digital assets, so apps for brands who have consumers, but who also have what I'd call industry ambassadors. And that can be a beauty therapist in a spa, that can be a trained advisor in a department store, or indeed it can be a dermatologist. And we were about to walk on a path of white labeling through some physical sessions, physical sprints to get these assets ready for testing this year. And of course, our customers were shocked by the whole process. As you say, it's been such a bricks and mortar dominated industry thus far, although changing, and some of those changes have just been accelerated. So what we decided to do was just flip it and make the most of the fact that we could access expertise, because spas and stores were closed, that we would not otherwise get. It would have been more difficult to get these people together. And we set up a series of sprints to really get into the heart of what are the problems, what are the challenges, what are the market needs. I was guided well, I have to say, on some of this, and really come up with solutions that we were never about displacing people. We were always about empowering people. So these ambassadors have apps that connects with their consumers, so they understand the consumer behavior when they go home, so that in between the spa visits or the dermatologist visits, the prescribed regime can be tracked and monitored. So that's something that we've done. It's so empowering, because this industry has great ambassadors. They have people who are truly passionate about the wellness of others, and the teams that we've worked with, we've been able to have really open conversations, and sometimes quite emotional conversations about some of the pain points that they deal with guests, and how can we use technology, not for technology's sake, but to enhance the whole experience and to unburden, it's that analogy of going back to the Fitbit again. If you go to a personal trainer once a month, it's not about that once a month. It's about what happens in those 30 days in between your next visit. And so we've now built assets that really have addressed some of those real pain points, because if you go for a great spa experience, you want the experience, but you also want to maintain that optimal skin health when you go home. So that's some of what we've been doing in the pandemic. Today was the 20th webinar, and I joined the first webinar, as you know.
Wilma, you have been the most incredible. You and Andrew, who I know you're very good friends with, have been absolute incredible ambassadors, advocates for us. You've been on nearly every webinar. I know it was our 20th webinar today. I would love to kind of hear how you've gone through
understanding. I mean, one of the hardest parts was we were about to go and present this technology at Professional Beauty at In Cosmetics Global. We were about to go on a tour of Europe, basically, and obviously all of that was was cancelled, postponed initially, but now cancelled, and most of it's going virtual. So we to really think about the shock phase and understanding what the shock phase meant, and from day one how you guided us in that. And probably one of the hard parts was just to connect with our community in the way that I'm describing, with going ahead with the apps and the assets still being created, but then being very open about what does this actually mean as we start to come out into this recovery phase.
Yeah.
And I was actually approached during lockdown by all sorts of organizations and publications that took me back into areas of expertise that I forgot I had. For example, I've written articles and I've done interviews about protecting our skin against environmental damage.
Yeah.
I've talked about where I see technology empowering expertise in the space. So really we were preparing all of this great content during the shock phase as with, you know, as a team. I'm privileged to work with a great team of 5, and our aim was to then really, by latter half of June into July, connect with that. And I can honestly tell you, we've never had so much exposure as we've had in the past month, because we're really talking about, you know, we're really connecting on a human level with what matters.
The human response.
Exactly. And that's for the consumer, but it's also for the shopped industry, including its ambassadors, who are so important to this industry, as well as to the brands themselves, who are really having to consider, what does the future of global beauty look like?
And you have such an important voice in this space. This was why when I sat with you in the stock exchange and I taught the program for the day, and I sat with you and I said to you, Wilma, you're a leader of the industry. You are a guru of the industry. And if you lead, then people, and it's interesting, then the pandemic hit and actually hit the health industry, the beauty industry, probably one of the hardest, along with the travel industry. You have such an opportunity. And this was why it was so inspiring for me when you were on the webinars and you were going out and you were leading with a human response, and you were leading with your voice, with your personal brand as well as the business brand. And it doesn't surprise me that because of that, you've had so much attention about yourself as well as the business.
Thank you, Lindsay.
It's so true. So true.
I mean, one of the webinars, in fact, I think it was on the L&D, because as you know, we're part of the first cohort, David and I, of L&D.
You are.
You know, when the day that you and Darren took us through future mapping, that had such a connection. I literally sat here for 2 hours immediately after, and I was like, you know, and I was going into all of these different decks that I've created over the last 2 or 3 years and said, this is where, you know, that, because I was talking a lot about pre-digital and post-digital.
I know.
And really what I've been able to do now is talk about the what's next. So thank you for that.
Is your space. And future mapping for the audience is where you look at your business and you're able to literally future map and predict. It's a tool that we teach on the L&D program and on the business school, that you can predict where the gaps are that are coming up in the industry, and you can literally move your business into a future gap. So Wilma, before we wrap up, you have been on the L&D program. You are on cohort 1. And so you are a founding citizen of the earth, of Bob Earth, and you're cohort 1. And you have been campaigning with us to unite on purpose. And so, Wilma, I've had Boris round my house for a cup of tea. And he came round and I told him Wilma's coming. And he said, oh, do give Wilma the keys to the country just for the day. He said, she can only have them for the day. And I said, okay. So I'm going to pass her the keys in my on purpose bag. Hang on a minute. There you go, Wilma. Have you got it?
I've got it. Thank you, Lindsay.
Okay, right. Wilma, look after this. I've got to give them back to Boris. And what we'd like to know, now you've got the keys, is you are uniting us on purpose for the day. What are you going to do, Wilma? What are you uniting us on purpose to do for the day that we're all going to do?
My if I had with these keys,
Yes.
I would take the principles of what we've been learning through Bob's school into school. I've listened to a lot on the United Purpose, and I go into schools. I'm a governor in a school. I go into my local school here, and I go in to do mock interview days, or business days where kids who are great at graphic design or art in some way, and they just don't know how to turn their gift into a business. If I could change one thing in our country, it would be to take that into schools, so that every child from a very early age understands that their gifting has a place in our world, and that's then coached through into some of what we do through LASL, where I'm a member of the board, and looking at governmental strategy to scale business in ways that has no limits. Because I think as a society, and I speak specifically for Scotland, there has been a recognition, and that's why we were in the stock exchange. Actually, we were one of 7 companies chosen to be part of this scale up initiative, because there's a real recognition that as a country we've got great education, we've got good governmental strategy, and we've got good commerce, but they're in silos. So let's join that together so that we can thrive.
Wilma, my vision for Bob has been to go into schools and to give the IP into schools. So if you would like to do that, we would be so proud to work with you. And we've got the Scottish Chambers that we have a close relationship with as well. And I believe we could do something with that to make that happen.
Let's do that.
Well, Wilma, I've got goosebumps all over me. You heard it here on LB Presents Unite on Purpose. That is how things happen. Thank you, Wilma. Oh my gosh, what an incredible interview. That was absolutely wonderful. And if anybody wants to get hold of Wilma, do you now have your personal brand website live?
I do. Wilma-McDaniel.com is live.
Good.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Please do go onto her personal brand website. She is a guru of the industry. If you want to know anything about the health of the beauty industry and where things are moving to, my strong suggestion is you connect with Wilma and you can log on to her website. Thank you so much. What a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in again onto LB Presents Unite on Purpose. If you would like to come and join us on the quiet revolution, then come on to bobearth.com. We are spinning around the globe. Every single person that I am interviewing on here is a founding citizen of the earth. So you can meet these incredible people on the earth. And Bob Earth is the first purpose-led platform that connects businesses all around the world to trade with each other and unite together to impact change in the world. So build a brand, grow your business, impact an industry, and shift the world. See you tomorrow. I have an incredible business coming on from Australia tomorrow. So I will be up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 7 a.m. to do the interview. See you then.